Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a totally mind-bending what-if scenario today. So, picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, roll out of bed, and find out that every single ocean on planet Earth has been completely stripped of its salt overnight. No scientific warning, no gradual change, just boom, fresh water everywhere. Now, I know it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, right? But mapping out exactly how this would actually unfold gives us an absolutely incredible look at just how intricately balanced our planet really is. So imagine taking your normal morning walk down to the local beach. You step onto the sand, totally expecting that familiar, briny sea breeze and the crash of those salty waves. But something feels off, fundamentally different. The air smells weirdly crisp, actually, almost like you're standing next to a giant lake. You walk up to the shoreline, cup some water in your hands, and you taste it. It's totally fresh. I mean, it's completely drinkable, at least as far as the salt goes. And this massive visceral shock, it isn't just happening at your local beach. It's happening literally everywhere.
Well, within hours of this discovery, humanity is throwing a massive party. News channels are running wall-to-wall coverage, governments are holding these frantic emergency press conferences, and the global headline everywhere is exactly the same: the greatest miracle in human history. And honestly, you can totally understand why. At first glance, it sounds like we've just instantly solved the global water crisis. The immediate thought is, hey, we have unlimited fresh water now. We don't need those crazy expensive, energy-hogging desalination plants anymore. Droughts, a thing of the past. There is just this pure, unadulterated euphoria sweeping across the globe.
And this euphoria builds incredibly fast. Let's just look at how this unfolds on the ground in the very first hour. It's a frantic race against the clock for scientists globally. 15 minutes in, buoys and research vessels confirm the entire Atlantic Ocean is fresh. By 30 minutes, data is pouring in from the Pacific. Yep, it's fresh too. At the 45-minute mark, the Indian Ocean follows suit. And by the time we hit just 60 minutes, even the freezing depths of the Arctic and the wild southern oceans are confirmed to be completely devoid of salt. It's an impossible phenomenon, and it's confirmed globally in under an hour.
But while we're all up on land popping champagne and celebrating our brand new endless water supply, down in the dark, right beneath the waves, something terrible has already started. See, that initial optimism we're feeling up top is completely disconnected from the terrifying reality unfolding below. The oceans haven't just changed a little bit, their fundamental chemistry has been entirely rewritten. And unfortunately, the residents of the ocean are the first ones paying the price.
Think about it. Almost every single animal in the ocean is specifically adapted to survive in salty water. Their biology literally relies on a very stable salt concentration just to keep their cells from bursting or collapsing. So as the salt vanishes, these species experience this immediate, severe physiological stress. It's a rapid cascading effect. First, the fish go straight into shock. Then, coral reefs, which are basically the bustling metropolises of the sea, they begin dying almost instantly. Sea stars completely lose their ability to function. And maybe the most devastating part, the tiny plankton. They are the absolute foundational base of the entire oceanic food web, and they start dying off in massive numbers. Food chains just snap immediately, and the oceans become eerily, tragically quiet.
But the devastation doesn't just stop at marine biology. It actually completely alters global physics. Because salt doesn't just make the ocean taste salty, it fundamentally dictates ocean density. And density is just the weight of the ocean water. Cold, salty water is heavy, so it sinks, while warmer, fresher water rises. This constant sinking and rising is the literal engine that drives our powerful global ocean currents. You can think of these currents like a giant conveyor belt, moving immense amounts of heat from the equator all the way up toward the poles. So salt is kind of the invisible hand steering the Earth's entire climate. Now, without salt, that crucial density difference just vanishes, and those massive ocean currents grind to a complete halt. And when that global heat conveyor belt stops, we are immediately thrust into climate extremes. Countries that rely on warm ocean currents to stay temperate could suddenly plunge into severe cold and devastating droughts. Meanwhile, areas around the equator, where all that heat is no longer being pushed away, they'd face unbearable heat and wildly unpredictable floods. Rainfall patterns would just shift overnight. Farmers would have absolutely no idea when to plant their crops, because the seasonal weather they've relied on for centuries, it just doesn't exist anymore.
So, this massive environmental crisis rapidly cascades into a global economic domino effect. First off, as the marine ecosystem completely collapses, multi-billion-dollar fishing industries vanish literally overnight. Step 2. Because there are no fish, coastal communities that depend entirely on seafood for their survival, struggling and immediately lose their primary source of income. Third, with seafood completely wiped off the global menu and farmers struggling with all those new, chaotic weather patterns, global food prices skyrocket rapidly. And finally, facing mass starvation and economic ruin, governments start declaring widespread emergencies as global markets enter a state of total panic.
And right about now, we are forced to face a very painful reality check. People initially believed that freshwater oceans would solve all our problems, but instead, new, terrifying ones are popping up every single day. The realization finally sets in. The dream of endless clean water is a total illusion. Remember those millions of people who rushed to the coastlines with empty water bottles on day one? Well, they're about to find out the hard way that unsalted definitely does not mean safe.
Because yes, the salt is gone. But if we actually break down the composition of this new water, the reality is pretty grim. While roughly 85% is water, 8% of it is now made up of decaying microorganisms from that massive mass die-off we talked about. Add to that 4% human pollutants and 3% heavy sediments. So, if you scoop this up and drink it, you will get violently ill. It still requires incredibly heavy, complex, and super expensive treatment facilities before a single drop of it is even remotely safe for human consumption. It is for sure not as simple as just sticking a straw in the sea.
So, when we weigh this entire scenario objectively, the reality becomes pretty stark. On one hand, theoretically anyway, desalination plants wouldn't be needed, assuming we could figure out how to transport and treat all that water. Some new farming regions might even emerge in the shifting climate, and local freshwater shortages near the coasts could eventually be addressed. But those minor benefits, they are completely dwarfed by the massive costs. We're talking total marine ecosystem collapse, completely unpredictable and extreme global climate chaos, and the total collapse of the fishing industry leading to sheer market panic. The costs are simply staggering. Ultimately, this whole thought experiment brings us to one really profound realization. One tiny, seemingly completely ordinary ingredient keeps the Earth's oceans, climate, and ecosystems in delicate, perfect balance: salt. We use it every single day, we totally take it for granted, yet without it, our entire world would look completely and horrifyingly different. It really is the linchpin of life as we know it.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. If you were handed a magic wand tonight, knowing everything we just covered in this explainer, would freshwater oceans actually be a blessing, or would they be one of the greatest disasters humanity has ever faced? It really makes you reconsider the kinds of miracles we might wish for, doesn't it? Think about that the next time you're looking out over the waves. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep staying curious about the incredible systems that keep our world spinning.